So today we're heading to South Korea, a place that, everyone points to as the future.
The digital blueprint.
Exactly. But we're diving into this paradox, this friction that happens when a super high-tech society runs smack into a really old tradition.
It's such a great clash. We're looking at one of the most cashless societies on the planet hitting a wall.
And the wall is shaped like a fish.
It is literally shaped like a fish. We are talking about Bungeoppang, or Carp Bread, a humble street snack that basically breaks the entire digital economy.
And the sources we're looking at today just lay this out so perfectly. I mean, just picture it. You have people whose whole life runs on a $1,000 smartphone.
Right.
But the minute it gets cold outside, they're suddenly desperate, scrambling for a crumpled 3,001 bill.
Which is what, about $2.
Yeah.
And that $2 becomes the most important thing you can possibly have in your pocket. It's the key to everything.
To really get that, though, we have
Yes.
to set the stage. Just how cashless is South Korea?
Okay, so when we say cashless, it's not like in the West where, a lot of people use cards. It's a whole other level.
It's the baseline.
It's the baseline. Cash has been actively pushed to the margins by the government, by tech adoption. It's not just that cards are accepted everywhere. It's the sheer number of ways you can pay for things seamlessly.
So what does that look like on the ground? It's more than just Apple Pay. Right?
Oh, way more. I mean, yeah, you have Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, but then you have things like the T-Money card. That started as a transit card for the subway.
Right, like an Oyster card in London or a Metro card.
Exactly. But it immediately became a universal payment system. You tap it to buy a drink at a convenience store, pay for a taxi, get something from a vending machine. It's completely integrated.
So your subway card is also your wallet for small purchases.
Totally. And the government even pushed this thing called Zero Pay to help small shop owners avoid high credit card fees. So even the tiniest little corner store is wired for digital.
Which means what for the average young person?
It means they just don't carry a wallet. Why would you? Your phone does everything. Physical money is like this weird relic your grandparents use.
Okay, so that context is key. You've got this whole society optimized for tap and go. No friction, no fumbling for change.
A perfect futuristic system.
That works flawlessly until winter.
Until winter. That's when the whole thing just grinds to a halt. This system has this one critical blind spot, and it's this wonderful, warm, fish-shaped pastry.
Let's talk about it. Bungeo-ppang. For anyone who's never had the pleasure, what is it?
It's just the best thing on a cold day. It's this golden, crispy batter, kind of like a waffle, and it's pressed into a mold that's shaped like a carp.
And they serve it piping hot right off the griddle.
Piping hot. And traditionally it's filled with this sweet red bean paste, although, newer versions have custard cream.
It sounds delicious, but also super humble.
Yeah.
And we mentioned eating 3,001, but the snack itself is like incredibly cheap, yeah.
Oh, it's nothing. You can get 3 or 4 of them for about 1,001. That's less than $1. So that 3,001, that's your emergency stash.
Your cash.
Exactly. It's the minimum you need to have on you in physical bills to make sure you can buy a batch.
So this high-tech, cashless life is just completely incompatible with a 50-cent snack.
Yeah.
And the problem is the vendor.
It's all about the vendor. These aren't chains or fancy shops. They're tiny little street stalls. Sometimes it's just a cart with a griddle. And they're almost always run by older folks.
And they're strictly cash only.
Strictly.
But why? I mean, with things like Zero Pay and cheap card readers everywhere, why not just get a little QR code for a bank transfer?
Well, that's the real sociological friction, isn't it? There are a few things going on. First, it's just the hassle. For an operation that only runs 3 months a year, setting up a system, dealing with connectivity, it's often not worth it.
And I'm guessing there's a big generational divide, too.
A huge one. A lot of these vendors are elderly. They're comfortable with cash. It's simple. It's immediate. Digital payments mean reconciling accounts, taxes, tech problems. It's a barrier they just don't want to deal with. It's the classic informal economy.
That makes so much sense. So it's not that the tech has failed. It's that it wasn't designed for this hyper-specific cash-first culture.
And that leads to what the sources call this unwritten rule for survival.
You must have 3,001 in your pocket.
You have to deliberately carry this one thing your entire digital life was designed to get rid of, just for a snack.
It's just such a fantastic image. The world's most connected people, patting their pockets for old-fashioned paper money. But here's where it gets even better. They couldn't digitize the vendor.
So they digitized the vendor's location.
Of course they did.
Right. If a cultural need is that strong, you will find a way. The problem is, where's the cash-only fish bread stall? The solution is, obviously, an app.
The ultimate 21st century answer to a low-tech problem. And are we talking about, like, big corporate apps?
Not at all. And that's what makes it so great. They're community-driven, crowdsourced maps. Guerrilla mapping, basically. It just shows you how deep the craving runs.
And the names are incredible. They have a sense of humor about it.
Oh, they're the best. One is called Gasam. It literally means chess requires 3001.
It's an instruction.
It's an instruction. And my favorite is Daidom Pulpang Yohido, the Great Map of Bread. They're naming it after a famous historic map of Korea. It elevates the snack to, like, an object of national treasure.
The Great Map of Bread. I love that. So how detailed is this data? Because those stalls pop up and disappear, right?
That's why the apps are so essential. Users are providing real-time intelligence. They're not just dropping a pin. They're saying, it's here, it's open right now.
Wow.
And the most crucial piece of information, if this is one of those rare mythical vendors who actually will take a bank transfer.
It's a digital unicorn.
The unicorn. Usually it's just a QR code scrawled on a piece of cardboard.
So you're using your cutting-edge phone not to pay, but as a high-tech treasure map to find the low-tech cash spot.
It perfectly shows how technology gets adopted to serve a cultural habit, even when it can't change it.
But the whole thing doesn't even stop there. Once you find it, once you have your cash, you enter the cultural war zone.
Yes. The tech problems are over. Now the real debates begin. And the first, the most important one, is the filling. Red bean versus custard.
Okay, so you've got Team Red Bean, the Pat team.
The purists, the traditionalists.
Yeah.
For them, sweet red bean paste is the only authentic choice. It's not just about flavor, it's about history. Anything else is a modern corruption of the real thing.
And on the other side.
You've got the modernists, Team Shoe Cream,
Yeah.
custard. It's usually the younger crowd. They like the creamy, yellow, sweeter filling.
And the sources say asking a Korean this question is like,
It's like asking, does pineapple belong on pizza?
so it creates instant, passionate arguments.
Instant division.
Yeah.
It's not about food, it's about identity. Tradition versus modernity played out in a fish-shaped pastry.
That's incredible. And if that wasn't enough, there's a second debate about how you eat it.
Yes. This one is all about what kind of person you are. Do you start with the head or the tail?
So what does head first say about you?
Head first means you're aggressive, optimistic, decisive. You go right for the puffiest, most filled part. You get straight to the good stuff.
Okay. And the tail first people.
The strategists. They are seen as more cautious, meticulous. They save the best for last.
The crispy tail.
The crispy tail is the grand finale. It's the best texture. So they're seen as people who savor the experience.
It's just amazing how much meaning is packed into such a simple thing. So you have a whole society that went digital, gets pulled back to cash by a snack, and then they fight over how to eat it.
That's the whole story in a nutshell. It shows that no matter how fast your technology moves, these simple traditional comforts, they have a kind of gravity. They pull you back.
And it really shines a light on that informal economy, which tech always seems to struggle with. You still need people, crowdsourcing on the ground to map these pockets of tradition.
And what's so cool is that the culture doesn't reject the tech. It just bends it to its will. It creates the great map of bread. Tradition finds a way.
So for you listening, I guess the takeaway is to think about that tension in your own life. In a world that wants to optimize everything, what's that one cash-only, low-tech thing that resists?
What's your Bungeo-ppang moment, the thing that forces you to step outside the digital stream just for a moment of simple, nostalgic pleasure? Because that friction point, well, that's often where you find the things that really matter.